Hello, I'm Celia. 2 weeks today I shall be 77 years young. I grew up as the third of 7 children. I'm counting, but only 4 of us survived to adulthood. My older brother and sister, myself, and then a long gap till my baby sister came along. As a small child, I was aware of the fact that I was a cute little thing. I was always dressed in homemade dresses, but really beautifully made dresses by my mum, and had soft curly hair and always had a bow at the top of my head. And I was a very happy little girl, sang a lot, chatted a lot. And I guess I remained like that till I was maybe 8 or 9, when I think I began to come out into my shell. By the time I was 13, 14, when I might have been excited about my womanhood, I had very much closed down. I got on with my work at school. I was a bit of an intellectual little thing, and little thing is the operative word. I was very small, even at 14, very late to develop. And my sister, who was only 16 months older than me, had gone through all the stages at what seemed appropriate times. So I was very aware of womanhood, desperate to develop, but quite envious of my sister, who could go out and buy what looked like adult clothes and they fitted her, and I didn't need those sorts of things. And I guess that went on really till I got 18, 19. When I was 17, 18, I went to live in Brussels as an au pair and really loved being the big sister of the family, because the children were toddlers and a baby arrived while I was there. And I was really appreciated by that family and made to feel like a person of value. And I remember once we went out for Sunday lunch, and the waitress said to Guy, the husband in the family, will your older daughter have some wine? And he said, of course, but he was laughing and delighted that I would be called his older daughter. But in fact, he was quite an elderly father, so it would have fitted quite well that I was his daughter. And in some ways, that was a repeat of my earlier life and my reality circumstances. My father was really very elderly when I was born. So I came back from Belgium feeling a bit more secure in myself, but recognised that I'd enjoyed fending for myself, being away from not having family to cling to or to ask their feelings and thoughts about it. And so I found myself a job as a housekeeper for a professional couple whose 2 boys were at school, and I was there to see them to and from school and keep house and cook the food. And again, I was really valued there because Myra, the woman of the household, was vegetarian, and I hadn't a clue how to cook vegetarian food, but I cooked her food and she loved it. She said she couldn't cook, so it was great to. She said I just would have beans on toast most nights, and I don't know what was cooking. I can't remember now what I cooked it, but she always thought it was very inventive and tasty. And then I went off to be a nurse, and in a way I went back into my shell when I was nursing. I found the senior staff intimidating. So in a curious way, it was as though I lived two lives, because in an evening or weekends, if I went out dancing, I could be life and soul of the party, but when I went on the ward, I could feel myself backing off. Anyway, I met my husband then and stopped my nursing, and we got married, and I had 3 children. And I guess then motherhood was everything that was in my head. And then the children grew up. And by the time they were getting to sort of ready to leave primary school, I was a bit worried what would I do when they grew up. But in fact, life seemed to get richer by the time they'd gone to senior school, because they brought lots of friends home. And a favourite thing on a Sunday would be, well, certainly by the time they were in sixth form college, there would be at least half a dozen people that didn't belong to me, but acted as though they were just part of this whole household. Now, cold, wet winter day, we'd all sit around, put the world to rights or watching telly, and then I would say, there must be a hungry soul in this house. I better get something done about it. And I'd go in the kitchen, and within the hour, Sunday dinner would be on the table. My kids used to say it's like Ready, Steady, Cook. They made that programme because of you. And there was one particular boy, they were all going off to college, and I guess it was sort of late September, early October, they were going to college or university. And one lad said, I'll see you in 6 weeks. I'm coming back from a dinner. And I said, what do you mean? What are you coming back for? He said, from a dinner. He said, I'm only going to see what it's like, and then I'll be back. And sure enough, on a Sunday, late afternoon, they ring on the doorbell, and there was Paul, he was called, standing on the doorstep saying, is dinner ready? I told you to come. And when I look back on it now, not only did I have the richness of my own children, I had so many of their friends. By that time, I had gone back to work and trained as a psychiatric nurse, and really enjoyed that. It was a small hospital. I was a mature student, so would be given responsibilities that some of the younger students wouldn't get. And I believe I grew from that, and was gaining a lot more confidence myself. But then I had the opportunity to go and train as a psychotherapist, and it was as though the sun had come out and I had blossomed. It's quite sad to think about that. But I just continued to blossom. And to cut a long boring story short, but about 15 years later, I was delegated to 2 organisations in Europe and became president of one of them. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me in terms of growing up as a woman. And I was just thinking, this sounds awful. It's as though my husband wasn't part of this. Of course he was part of all of this. But I'm thinking about what I did individually during, and was able to do individually, because I was living in such a secure relationship. And I couldn't believe that he didn't object to me going off to Europe 5, 6, 7 times a year to attend various meetings for whatever reason. Sometimes he came with me, but latterly he was saying, actually, it gets so boring when there's just a limit to how many museums I can look at. And then when we meet up in the evening and we go out with a crowd for a meal, you're all just buzzing about what you've succeeded at or what you've not succeeded at. And there was a couple of other, mostly husbands, sometimes wives, that were not part of the organisation, and they would sort of chat together about life outside of psychotherapy. But it was a rich and happy time, and I think that's when I really started to feel I was my own person and very much a woman. When I was elected president of the association, someone said to me I was only, in something like 25 years history, I was only the second woman to hold the presidency. I'm now really proud of the fact that a good friend and colleague of mine is just coming to the end of her presidency, and she's going to be followed up by another lovely woman who is quietly capable. And then, as everybody knows, COVID struck. And when COVID struck, it curtailed so much of what we were doing. I guess we were still having meetings online, but during that period I realised that it was time to hang up my psychotherapy boots. And so in 2021, I gave notice to the various organisations that I was going to retire. And indeed, I am now fully retired. I said at the beginning of this, I'm going to be 77 in 2 weeks' time. And that's because there's a kind of a family myth that my father managed to beat, but none of his brothers did. All of his brothers died in their 76th year. But my dad, when he was 76, was looked almost, I'm saying now, he was depressed, but he was over the moon when he turned 77. And I put that out of my head until I turned 76. And I thought, oh, this is a year that gets a lot of our family. So I hope I'm not trusting fate, but I've only 2 more weeks to go, and then I'm going to celebrate breaking the family mold. And that's me.